Hey, lifers, welcome back to the Live the Life podcast. I am your host, Eric Aroca. Let's just dive right into this. What a crap show that was. I mean, I should have known better than to freaking pick the Houston Cougars to win the chip. I should have known better. But, it was the hometown team. I felt like I need to root for the hometown boys. To hell with that. Anyway, I hope you did better than I did. At least I had them in the chip. I don't know what to say. I'm just at a loss. I heard today, though, that they have been to the chip 7 times? I don't know if that's true or not. I know they went to the chip with Ralph Sampson and Hakeem the Dream Olajuwon. And apparently they didn't win the chip back then either. I don't know what to say. I really don't know what to say. I'm at a loss for words. It's just sad. Just sad. That's all I can say. It's just sad. Really bummed out. Probably will never pick the hometown team ever again. How about that? All right. Enough of that. Who cares? Hey, basketball is over. Thank goodness NCAA men's basketball is done. And now we can focus on off-season football, which is really the most important thing anyway. So, football, here we go. All right. Now on to the actual episode for the podcast. So, the cover for the rewrite of the Live the Life You Have Always Imagined, the cover has been approved. The final manuscript will be submitted for formatting either tomorrow night or Thursday night. My parents were here for a week visiting from Utah, so that really took up all of my extra time, and had a blast with them. It was really great having them here. Really enjoyed their visit, and they flew back home today, so now it's time to buckle down and get the manuscript, get the final version of the manuscript loaded for formatting tomorrow or Thursday. I'm thinking right now it's more than likely going to be Thursday night. I'll get that out there, and once that's approved, it's really smooth. By next Tuesday, we should have a final version of everything, of the entire book put together. Should be approved by Amazon by then, and probably even available on the Amazon store. But you guys want to see the cover? All right, so this is the old cover right here, right? Sophie. Oh, by the way, Sophie's behind the camera. All right, Sophie, you got to tell me if they can see this or not. That is the new cover. So it kind of plays a little bit on Live the Life podcast, because that's the logo you will see on Spotify, Amazon Music, and Apple. That's the logo that you'll see for the Live the Life podcast. So that's old school. This is the original. Very plain, right? I really like the simplicity of the old, but I told my graphic artist at Orange Pulp Graphics. There you go, Lindy. There's a plug. So if you're looking for a great illustrator, I don't know if you call her an illustrator, but graphic designer. She's amazing. Orange Pulp Graphics. I told her I wanted to use that logo somehow, and there we go. We are using it. So the back of the cover looks like that. So now you've had a sneak peek. So there you go. All right. We are jumping right in then. I wanted to talk a little bit about, on this episode, about the most confusing word in the English language. And I'm pretty sure you probably can't guess what it is. But feel free to go ahead and put your comments. Just go ahead and type your comments right there. Yep, go ahead. Let's see. I want to see what you guys say is the most confusing word in the English language. But because this is a podcast and not a guest show, I'm just going to tell you what it is. The most confusing word in the English language is culture. So if you were thinking of it, you got it. I believe that if you asked 10 different people the definition of culture, you would probably get 9 different definitions. Maybe not 10, but I think you would probably be pushing 9 definitions for sure. It just means so many different things to different people that it's hard to kind of get a gauge on how to define it. This was given to me by a friend some time ago, because back in 2022, a friend sent me this. It was just a little quote, and the quote says, "Culture is how employees' hearts and stomachs feel about Monday morning on Sunday night." I think that is great. Culture is how employees' hearts and stomachs feel about Monday morning on Sunday night. And I think that is a great way to kind of try to define what culture is. So, you're going to get different answers on culture, right? When you ask people, some people are going to say it's about values. Other people are going to say it's about a feeling. Other people are going to say it's about the values of the organization. And then to make things even more confusing, we often confuse culture with outcomes. And this is what I mean by that. You're going to hear quite a bit, if you follow sports especially. I think this is really prevalent in sports. So if you watch any sports shows, even games, I hear this said quite a bit even during the games, where the announcers or the commentators will say something like, this team has a winning culture, right? You'll hear that about the Kansas City Chiefs all the time, that they have a winning culture. You'll hear it about, back in the day, you heard it about the New England Patriots, that they had a winning culture. So I think we confuse what culture is with outcomes sometimes. In the corporate world, you might hear something like, people are so nice, they have such a great culture, right? Because people are nice, they have a great culture. So we are, again, confusing the outcome of culture for culture. And I think we do that quite a bit. But I think we need to distinguish between the two. Winning games is definitely an outcome. It's something that happens because of the culture that was created. Same with how nice people may or may not be in a particular organization. Whatever we think the outcome is not really, that's not the culture. That's just what the culture is producing. So if you have a culture, for example, on the negative side, if you have a culture of silence where the employees have a culture of silence, in other words, they see something wrong, they see things that shouldn't be happening, things that shouldn't be going on in the organization, but they choose to stay quiet, right? They're afraid of losing their jobs or what have you. So you kind of have a culture of fear, kind of a culture of silence, type of a thing. So in that sense, it's not necessarily that's more or less the outcome as it is the culture, right? So the outcomes are going to like, what am I trying to say? What's the word? Sophie, what?
Outweigh?
No, not necessarily outweigh. They're going to mirror. That's what I'm trying to say. So your outcomes kind of mirror what your culture is. So if you have a negative culture, if you have a culture where people stay silent and do those type of things, then the outcomes are going to be chaotic. The outcomes are going to be bad. When it hits the news, crap hits the fan, right? Ask Mark Cuban; he'll tell you, his problems that he had with the Dallas Mavericks. The Washington Redskins come to mind from years past. And so there's organizations. Amazon is famous for burning through people, right, in their warehouse. I'm not sure that culture really even extends to the drivers, the Amazon drivers, but I know that in the Amazon warehouse environment, I know that they burn through people very, very quickly, right? And that's not necessarily a bad culture. It's just different. They have a different set of beliefs, right? And so the output is different. Okay, not necessarily good or bad, but it is different. So you can kind of see now why culture is known as, as the most confusing word in the English language, because it means so many different things to so many different people. People define it differently. So anyway, just something to keep in mind as we go ahead and continue talking about culture. So culture is going, like we said, is going to drive those outcomes. You know what? Here's the other trap. I just thought, here's another trap. Labeling culture good or bad. And again, I kind of mentioned that a little bit, but it's really just different. I really tend to go away from labeling an organization with good or bad culture. As now I just kind of go with, hey, they just have a different culture, or they have a culture that either matches my personal beliefs or works well with me, or that's a culture that does not work for me. Right? It's not an environment where I can thrive. It's not an environment where I can be successful. So I kind of look at it that way also. And culture is really not about how it feels. It's about how it functions. So we got to start thinking of culture in that term as well. So for example, we got to, instead of thinking about culture on the good or bad spectrum, we really need to be asking, is that culture intentional? So whatever is going on in that culture, is it intentional? Is it consistent? Right? Are they consistent in living that culture? Does it support the mission and the people of that organization? So I think we need to think of culture in those terms as well. We need to probably, I think it would be a good practice to stop treating culture like a vibe and start treating it more like the engine that it truly is, right? Because culture should never be a vibe, right? It's really the engine of an organization. It's what keeps the organization running. And to me, culture is really about the beliefs of the organization. What is it that the organization believes in? What are the values? How culture becomes what people talk about in the break room, right? When no one is watching, what do you do? That becomes your culture. So I think your culture can be pretty defining. Your culture is your brand. It's not your products. It's not your services that you provide. You can have wonderful products and have a crappy work culture. You could also have really bad products and have a wonderful work culture, right? I haven't really experienced that side of it. I have experienced having a wonderful product and a bad culture. I've lived it. I've worked for those organizations. And so just something to think about. Your culture is truly your brand. Okay, so as you're trying to attract people to your organizations, if you're trying to expand your sales, whatever it is you're trying to do with your organization, you got to think of it as your culture is your true brand. It is your differentiator. It is not your products. It is not what you do. I'm sorry. I can find 12 dentist offices, for example, in my general area that basically do the exact same thing. So why would I go to one versus another? It's more than likely going to be because of culture. It's because when I walk into the office, I am greeted a certain way. I am talked to in a certain way. It's the beliefs, again, of an organization. Have you ever been somewhere and the person that greets you at the front is, got a sour, puss face? They are rude to you. They're short with you. You guys know what I'm saying, right? Like you've experienced that. That's culture. That's because the organization believes in those type of things. And so that's the output. That is the outcome of that particular culture. You get that shortness. You get that rudeness. You get that vibe that you just people don't care whether you come or go. But also on the flip side, also when you're feeling very welcomed and you're greeted appropriately and all of those type of things. People go out of their way to help you, right? They give you like the Disneyland treatment. Well, that's the output, that's the outcome of the belief system of that organization. So you really kind of have to decide which one of those types of cultures you want to be a part of. And if you're not a part of a good culture right now, I hate to tell you, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but there's probably not a damn thing you can do to change it. So you should just update your resume and go look for an organization where you fit in, where you feel welcome, where you feel like it's a thriving culture, where you can thrive, where you can be successful. The other thing about culture that I want to make sure that we all understand is that culture is always a top-down effect. It is never, ever a bottom-up effect. The leader of the organization, I don't care if you're the principal of a school, if you are the CEO, the president of a company, you set the standard for your culture. You are going to set your culture. It's always a top-down approach. Now, you can have individual cultures within a culture. So you can have an overreaching, like an umbrella-ish type of a culture, and then within the departments of an organization have different cultures, like a school, for example. The school can have a culture, but each classroom's culture is set by the teacher. Why? Because the teacher is the leader of the room. Okay? In an organization, you can have a CEO or a president of a company, and you have a culture that they create, but then you could have kind of a supporting culture in like the marketing and sales departments and things like that. And so, but it should never be a culture that fights or that goes against the culture of the organization. It should be something that that benefits the organization, right? Or that adds to the overall culture of the organization that you are in. But just remember, it is always, always, always a top-down approach. And that's why I say, if you work for an organization where you do not fit in that culture, it's time to update that resume. Get out, go do something else. Listen, many years ago, I did my research. I wanted to go work for a pharmaceutical company. That was the dream. That was really the dream job back then. I earned my bachelor's degree. So I was set. I think that was really the only thing that I needed to get. Once I got it, I started doing my homework. I'd actually done my homework before this. I had really, really researched different companies to go work for. I came across one in particular, and more than anything, just because I had a neighbor who worked for this company, and I just really loved how he spoke about the organization. I love how he spoke about the culture of the company. So I went through the process and had several interviews. Never made it, never got picked. Until one day, I got a phone call saying, that they wanted to interview me for a position in Salt Lake City, Utah, and that was a lot of fun. That was a blast from day one. So, and I would go back I saw it on the job posting. The job posting talked about how they were a performance-based organization. Okay? At the interview, they used the words performance-based. At every interview I had after that, they focused on performance. What they were telling me was, as long as you perform to our standards, you will have a job in this organization. It was that simple, and it was communicated that clearly. There were no surprises. Trust me, they were a performance-based company. When I wasn't performing well, and you guys, I know I've shared this story on the podcast before on earlier episodes, where I telling you that I'm having to take all these tests, about disease states and competitors' information, products, anatomy, you name it, right? I'm having to test on all of this stuff, and I wasn't passing my test. I wasn't performing to their expectation, right? So I came very close to being fired before the job even really got started. I just happened to be blessed with a really great manager who believed in my abilities to sell and was willing to work with me on the educational piece or the test taking piece, right? It's not that I wasn't learning this stuff. I just couldn't remember it to jot it down and then, fill in a little, what's that called? Bubble. To fill in the bubbles. Anyway, but they were a performance-based company. Now, my saving grace was, as soon as I became eligible to receive an award, I won an award. So yes, I was struggling taking the tests, but my performance was suggesting, hey, this guy is doing pretty well in his territory. So the first time I become available for an award, I receive an award, right? I was actually voted Phase 6 top performer. So out of everybody, Phase 6 was our final phase of training after 18 months. You're evaluated on everything. You're tested to the umpteenth degree. And I came out on top. So again, I'm showing my performance, right? A year later, I received the Vice President's Cabinet Award, which is the most prestigious award given to a salesperson, which just means that you hit your quota, right? Because in the world of sales, the only thing that really is important is you hitting your quota. If you make quota, you're good. Okay, now if you exceed your quota, that's even better. So not only did I make quota, I exceeded my quota by 25%. So I ended the year at 125% of quota. Okay, so that allowed me to win the Vice President's Cabinet Award, and it was awesome. But it was interesting to me that through all of their communication to me early on in the process of me interviewing with them and being hired by them, that they just harped about the fact that they were a performance-based company. And so I took that to heart because I wanted that job. I wanted to keep that job. I really liked that job. I had passion for it. I had purpose. I had perseverance, right? Because if I didn't have perseverance, I would have got fired when I wasn't passing my tests, right? So I did those things. Do you see how living the values and living the principles that we've talked about in previous episodes, how they come into play in culture? See how it supports the culture that you're involved in? It helps you live within that culture. It sets you up to be successful, to live in that culture. So that's exactly what happened here. I was able to be successful. Now, when the culture changed about 5 years in, it was a significant change. Most of us in the organization kind of looked around like, what the hell happened to the company we all started working for 5 years ago? Where's that company at? Where is the company that said we are a performance-based organization? That was no longer the case. Fast forward 6 months, I get a phone call on December 15th, just before Christmas, yay, saying that I'm being let go. Now, I'm being let go, but yet I'm a top performer. Do you see what the disconnect is? If you're a performance-based company, the last people you ever let go are your top performers. You let those bottom dwellers, the ones that are at the bottom of the sales report, the people who are not producing, who are not performing, you let them go. You don't let go your top performers if you're a performance-based organization. That was your culture. Your culture has now changed because now you're letting go your top performers. So it doesn't jive. There is no longer any type of cohesion. There's no longer any type of, it's off balance. You say one thing, but you do another. So which one is it? It's whatever your actions are actually doing. So that organization was a great example to me of how a perfect fit, how you perform when you're in the perfect situation, when you're in a culture that has the same value system that you have, that has similar beliefs to your own, same core beliefs, similar or the same core values. So when that happens, you are going to excel. You are going to do very well. You're going to perform at a high level because all of those pieces fit. But as soon as that culture changes and that culture does a shift, it is no longer aligned with what you believe, with your core values. Therefore, you're going to be frustrated. You're going to find yourself in just a crap storm of what am I doing here? Like, what's going on? And when that happens, I hate to tell you this, but it's the truth. You have nothing to do about it except for update your resume and go look for another job. Go look for that organization that believes what you believe, that has a culture where you can thrive. That is basically what you're left with, because you cannot change the culture, because the culture is a top-down effect. And when we had new leadership come in, we had new leadership come in from the top level. We changed all the O's. Okay? We changed the CEO, the CFO, the COO. What other O's are there? CTO. You name the O, we replaced them. Okay? And because we replaced them, they brought in their own ideas. They brought in their own culture. They brought in their own beliefs, their own core values. So even though the web page said we value people, Your actions are showing the world that you do not give a crap about the people who work for you. Because if you did, you wouldn't lay them off 10 days before Christmas. Actually, you wouldn't lay them off at all. And the stupid thing that happened is, not only did they lay off all the top performers, not just the salespeople, but managers as well. My manager was in the top 1%, top 2% of the company. He was let go. I was performing at a very high level. I was let go. Everybody that was in the top 1, 2, or 3 on the sales report was basically replaced. Only to find out a week later that my territory that I had just been let go from was open and they were hiring. But I couldn't even put in for it. How dumb is that? If that doesn't tell you and show you that we do not value people, I do not know what will. Don't fight it, because they're telling you. When a company tells you what they believe in, believe them, because they're telling you, they're showing you what they believe. So believe them. If they say they value people and they're laying off people every 6 months, they're lying to you. What they actually believe is that they don't give a crap about their people. Their people are not their greatest asset. They do not value you as a person. Okay? That's what they're telling you. So be very careful about the cultures that you work in. Does it jive with you? Is it a good fit for you? Do they believe what you believe? Something to think about. In the next coming episodes, we are really going to dive in to culture and talk about culture at pretty great lengths. We're going to talk about the 3 pillars of what I believe are the 3 pillars to building a great culture, to build a winning culture that lasts. Those 3 pillars are, number 1 is leadership, because it's the leader. Okay? So number 1 pillar is leadership. Number 2 pillar is communication. How clearly can you communicate with the people who work for you or work with you? How clearly can you communicate? How effective are you as a communicator? And the third pillar, gosh, that was hard for me to say. The third pillar is values. Now, with values, I am also going to throw in mission statement, purpose statement, mission statement. Did I already say mission statement? Vision statement. I am going to throw all those in there. Okay? So when we get to the point a few weeks down the road, when we actually talk about values, I am going to be talking about all those other statements as well, because they all are supporting documents and supporting communication or messages to the core values, because the core values will manage everything. Okay, will manage all of those things. So I'm excited. I can't wait to start talking to you guys about culture. Listen, I have worked in, I think, pretty much every culture imaginable, and I can't wait to share some great stories with you. Like, I want to share the story with you guys about going to work for a company, and from day one, they're telling me that the number 1 person I have to go and make a sale to in a hospital is my enemy. Okay? But they're expecting me to go sell that person. But their entire message is, these are all the reasons why they're going to tell you no. This is the reason why they hate your guts. This is the reason why they're going to kick you out of their hospital. This is the reason why you're going to be blackballed from selling there. These are... And I was like, what? Oh. But that was their culture. So I've worked for so many different types of culture. And again, I don't want to pigeonhole anyone into saying That was good culture. That was bad culture. But I do want to say that I've worked with companies where their culture matched me, matched my core beliefs, matched what I believe. And because there was a match, I could be successful there. I could thrive there. I could help that company be successful. I could help them thrive. Again, in another culture where that fit didn't happen, it was always frustrating. What was that quote earlier? Culture is how employees' hearts and stomachs feel about Monday morning on Sunday night. So if you want a really good litmus, how do you say that? Litmus? Anyway, if you want, Sophie is dying back here behind the camera. You're going to hear her snorting any minute. All right, so if you want the perfect example of what this quote is, if you, so this episode releases on Thursday morning. So Saturday, if you find yourself on Saturday complaining that the weekend is almost over, that the weekend is going by too fast, and then on Sunday night you find yourself saying, oh my gosh, that went way too fast. I can't believe I have to go to work tomorrow. You, my friend, are working in the wrong culture. When you're working in the right culture, those words will never come out of your mouth because you will be excited to go work on Monday morning. You have anticipation to go work on Monday morning because you're going to be doing the thing that you love to do. Passion, purpose, perseverance, remember that? You're going to be, you love what you do and you can't wait to get there. But if you're saying, oh my gosh, like crap, what happened to the weekend? You're working for the wrong organization. You're working in the wrong culture. And you need to take note of that this weekend and figure that out. So anyway, like I said, I'm super excited to just share with you guys my experiences when it comes to building winning culture. I'm really excited to talk to you about the 3 pillars because I love talking leadership, communication, and values. I think we're going to have fun. I'll share some really good stories with you guys. Some stories that, quite frankly, still hurt a little bit because it's not always fun to go through some of those things. But it's definitely worthwhile, and I'm grateful for the things that I've learned along the way. It's taught me a great deal. Right now, just so you guys know, I might as well share this with you now since we're talking about culture. I am in the middle of doing research for my next book project. So I have 2 books coming out next year in 2026. One is how to build school and classroom culture. So that one's going to be very specific to the educational space. And then I'm also writing a book on just overall organizational culture in the business world. And I'll be sharing lots of successes. I'll be sharing a great deal of information about the 3 pillars of leadership, communication, and values with you through those books. And right now I'm just in the middle, literally in the middle of doing research for that book project that will happen next year. I'm not sure when next year, but it'll happen next year, probably around the middle of the year. And so I'm really excited about that. It's keeping me busy. I'm learning a great deal. I mean, every day I just come home with tons and tons of notes. So I can't wait to be able to decipher through all of the information that I've been able to gather and then put it to work and put it in a good book. I will be partnering with principals, with sales professionals, with CEOs, all sorts of different people, and talking about their experience and talking about how they go about establishing or building a winning culture in their organization. So I'm learning a great deal. I hope it'll be a great tool for all of you to use in the coming year, and something for you to look forward to. But I really can't wait to get started and talking more in depth about culture, how to build it, and how to make sure that it is a great brand for your organization. Because like we said at the onset, your culture is your brand. So with that said, my friends, don't forget all the things that we talk about on the podcast, on the Live the Life podcast, in essence, go towards building a great culture for you. So when you go out there, when you step into work, into your workplace, don't forget to live the life.